I'm Chris, you're watching FRAG-MENTAL, thanks for joining me. 2 brand new fragrances from Swedoft. Perfect for winter, perfect for Christmas, not only in terms of scent, but Swedoft want to give you a Christmas gift. To find out more, stay tuned to FM. Swedish brand Swedoft are getting into the festive spirit by releasing 2 fragrances that in my opinion just work really well in the cooler months, great for the festive season. But not only that, they are offering a free fragrance. This isn't a giveaway, this is an offer to everybody. So keep watching and I'll let you know how you can get your free Swedoft fragrance. Okay, before all that I'm going to tell you about these 2 brand new releases from Swedoft. The first one is called Bohemian. The notes are Aquilaria malacensis, which is oud, Davana oil, nutmeg, dry fruits, patchouli, cedarwood, leather, sandalwood, Java vetiver, smoky notes, incense and white pepper. So when I first smelled this, the first thing that I thought was, oh, it's quite wild, it's quite a bold fragrance, not in a challenging way at all. It's just a big smell and it's a unique smell as well. And I'd describe it as a fruity oud opening. Definitely not a stinky oud, you just get this really rich, woody, aromatic type of smell. And also in the opening there is Davana, and Davana can give off an apricot-like ripe fruit type of smell. So you've got the oud combining with the Davana and it gives you this intense, rich woodiness. It's very potent actually. You don't want to be overspraying this fragrance because the opening will just radiate out like that. And it's going to be pretty potent, I think. So I would advise not to overspray with this fragrance. I mean, it does settle down, but in the opening, don't overspray. But if you get the spray just right, it is a stunning opening. After about the first 20 minutes, all this just starts to settle a little bit more, although personally I think it does remain quite an attention-grabbing fragrance throughout the life. But as it settles, you start to get the nuances of the dried fruits, there's some leather, some smokiness, lovely incense accord. But I wouldn't say that any of these notes really stand above the rest. You can kind of tell they're all there, but they just seem to exist in the fragrance as part of this really nice smooth blend. And slightly strange thing here, this might only be me that gets this, but when I smell it, it makes me think of beer. I get a bit of booziness from it. Now, I want to explain, I don't mean how beer smells, but it's how beer tastes. So this is kind of the smell, the olfactory equivalent of how beer tastes. And if you've ever drunk a really hoppy, fruity ale, which we have quite a lot of those here in England, then maybe you might be able to relate to what I'm saying. Anyway, it just conjures that sort of association with me. The dry down of this is my favourite part because everything just seems to settle, and on my skin it becomes this beautiful leathery, sort of ashy, smoky type of fragrance with just the right amount of sweetness. It smells like one of those fragrances you'd associate with a gentleman's club, that type of thing. You know, there's leather seats and there's a bit of smoke in the air and, you know, people are drinking. So it has that sort of vibe to it. It gives off this confidence, this sophistication, and it's quite close to the skin, but it still is projecting a little bit. So I lose this potent kind of fruity oud aspect that is so nice about the opening in the mid, and then as it dries down it develops into this very nice, emboldening, refined, sophisticated, leathery, ashy scent. In terms of the performance of this, big performance in the first hour or so because you get all that fruity oud. It's quite a potent scent, and then it just takes its foot off the gas and eases into that beautiful dry down, which lasts for me for about 8 to 10 hours, and it's still projecting a little bit, just nowhere near as much as in the opening. So overall, if you like development in fragrance, you're definitely going to get that from this one. It's not for the faint of heart, but if you want a statement-making fragrance, if you want to grab some attention, if you want to smell different, then I think Bohemian is definitely worth checking out. The second fragrance is called Spice Surprise, and it will come as no surprise that it's packed full to the brim of spice. There's cinnamon, coffee, black pepper, cedarwood, patchouli, clove, bourbon vetiver, tobacco, labdanum, honey and dates. I think this one is equally as attention grabbing as Bohemian, but in a different way, in a spicy way. So cinnamon, I think, is a big prominent note in this fragrance. It's there in the beginning, it's quite loud, and then it remains all the way through. No messing about, big old cinnamon note, but it's really nicely done. Also, the pepper in here, the cinnamon seems to combine with the pepper to give you this kind of very spicy, fiery cinnamon accord, which I don't recall I've ever smelled cinnamon done quite in this way. And it reminds me of those Fireball Jawbreaker sweets that I used to have as a kid. You know, the kind that go really hot in your mouth, and it was always a challenge to see if you could keep them in there. They were very cinnamon heavy, and obviously they were very spicy, very fiery. So yeah, I get a little bit of a vibe of those in here. The inspiration for this one is ancient spiced wine that the Romans used to drink, and I kid you not, it wasn't the first thing that came to my mind. I got Fireball Jawbreakers, but I sprayed this fragrance, and then about 10 minutes later, in another part of the house, my daughter said, "Who's been pouring wine?" And I was pretty shocked actually that she picked up on this wine note, and she's right, you kind of get this spiced wine, but I wouldn't describe it as like the Christmas mulled wine. It didn't remind me exactly of that, but it's not far off. I'd just say there's more cinnamon and it's a spicier type of smell than that. And maybe get some of the honey out of this because there's definitely a sweetness to the fragrance, and perhaps some of the dates, there is a bit of a dried fruit accord. But other than that, I don't really pick up on many of the other notes that are listed. This is just a bright, neon lit fragrance that is fizzing with energy. It's full of life. So I don't really get the tobacco or the coffee. It doesn't really bring that dark richness that is associated with those type of notes. I mean, it smells like there's a lot going on in this fragrance, so I'm sure that all the notes that are listed are playing a really important part in supporting the fragrance. As it dries down, it does start to smooth out. It loses a bit of that fiery, peppery accord, and it settles into the patchouli and the vetiver a little bit more. But the overall accord throughout the life of the fragrance is of this spiced wine, and it's a really enjoyable wear. Especially at this time of year. It's got this nice festive sort of feel to it with the spices, but I don't think it's just a Christmas fragrance. I think it's the type of composition that would work really well in the cooler months. Another thing to note is that both of these fragrances smell unique to me. They don't remind me of any of the fragrances that I've smelled before. Anyway, they are both pretty potent, so you'll probably want to go easy on the trigger on both of these. In terms of the performance of Spice Surprise, massive projection for the first couple of hours, and then it settles down a little closer to the skin, but I found for 8 to 10 hours I was getting a fairly decent projection. So this is a strong one, so make sure that you go easy on the spraying. All Swedoft's fragrances come in 3 sizes, 30, 50 and 100ml. They retail at €87.75, 156, €214 respectively, but they do offer samples on their website, so you can go along and try all their fragrances, see which ones you like best. I do need to thank Swedoft for gifting me these bottles. It's very much appreciated. But they don't just want to give me gifts, they want to give you gifts too. They want to gift you some free fragrance for Christmas. Of course, there are terms, which I'll tell you about in just a second. They can't just be giving out free bottles of fragrance to everyone in the world. It's not a good business model. But you can get a bottle of free fragrance if you purchase one of their 100ml bottles, which is this bottle size, so you're getting a lot of juice. In a little message box, you just need to let them know which free 30ml bottle of their fragrance you'd like. You can choose anything from their catalogue. Maybe you've tried some in the past and you fancy having 2 bottles, then it's a good opportunity to do that. The offer stands until the 20th of December, so still time to get some Christmas gifts in. Maybe you want to treat yourself or someone special in your life. Just don't tell your wife you didn't pay for that 30ml bottle you're giving her for Christmas. So it's a happy Christmas from Swedoft. It's a happy Christmas from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. It's always appreciated. Remember, keep tuning into FM, keep smelling good, and I'll see you in the next one.